keep it real with ya.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, so you're mad that your daughters didn't forgive you just because you apologized? Because it sounds like you may have apologized, but you're still being the same person that you were before. And you know what's hard? It's hard to forgive someone who continues to act the same way, because it shows that the apology they gave you was not sincere. Because if it was sincere, they would have changed their behavior. So you're telling me they don't forgive you and you mad about it. So that's why you trying to get on me about trying to forgive your mom and about trying to forgive my parents. And I say, you know what? Thank you for sharing that with me, because it's really putting into perspective why you chose to come at me the way you did and why you chose to speak to me the way you did. Because I really didn't like how you spoke to me. But now I'm understanding that this is really more about you and your daughters. You think you're trying to help me. I recognize that. But you're projecting your relationship with your daughters onto me and my mother, and you are not my mother. If you met my mother, you probably wouldn't even like her. And that's why yesterday you said you empathize. Nah, I don't empathize with abusers. Nah, I don't empathize. I'm like, yeah, you don't empathize now. But before, when you were saying the words that you said, you empathized, because that's what you said yesterday. But no, that's not what I'm saying. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. And I'm like, okay, what am I not hearing? Your parents could only do what they knew how to do. They didn't know any better. Okay, I didn't know any better either, but look at me. Then, not only that, the fact is, when I became an adult, no, 10 years ago, when I was a teenager going to therapy and I became an adult and everybody commented on how better I was, and I said, it's because I went to therapy. That was their opportunity. I talked about therapy with my parents all the time. That was their opportunity. They chose not to. Well, they weren't going to listen to you. It would have had to come from somebody else. Okay. So you're saying that I wasn't good enough for them to change their behavior. Just loving me was not enough to change their behavior or try to heal. Then my word and my opinions were not good enough to get to convince them to actually go to therapy and get help after they saw that therapy helped me. Even if they could change, that shows that they always had it in them to change, and I wasn't good enough for them to change. I was not a good enough reason for them to change and want to be better. And like I say all the time, I can acknowledge that people have messed up childhoods. And I can see in my family, like, it's very dysfunctional. A lot of adults have a lot of issues, and it is a product of their childhood. And I tell people this because my mother, she likes to take credit for me, but not her other kids. She likes to take credit for me because I'm the successful one. I'm the one that went to college. I'm the one that had the good grades. I'm the one that's got the good job. But the ones that can't keep a job, the ones that got baby mamas, baby daddies, the ones that have substance abuse issues, she don't want to take credit for them. They must have just randomly, when they turned 20, turned into a different person. That's not the child they raised. That's exactly the child they raised. And I am who I am in spite of them raising me. I am in spite of that. You do not get to reap the benefits of something you did not sow. And that's the thing that frustrates me. I tell people, like I said, on Mother's Day, I like to thank me. On Father's Day, I like to thank me. Because I was out here motherfucking grinding from a very early age. And people don't recognize that. And so then when they see me, they're like, your parents couldn't have been that bad. Your childhood could not have been that bad because look at you. Okay, but look at everybody else in my family. Like, you could just look at pictures of my family and be like, oh, you are nothing like those people. Yeah, I know. I worked my ass off to not be. No offense to them. They are free to live their lives however they so choose. They grown. But I'm not like them. I am a different person. I chose a different path in life. And people don't realize that. And I'm trying to explain all of this to her. And I'm trying to explain to her. And she's like, well, you should feel sorry for them because I feel so you don't feel empathy now because you called them abusers. Now you feel sorry for them because something must be wrong with them to act like that. Why do they get the excuse of something is wrong with them? Something's wrong with me right now. And I get no excuses. I get no benefit of the doubt from people. And shit is wrong with me right now. But then when I want to talk about the people who hurt me, all of a sudden something must have been really wrong with them. No, don't you feel sorry for them? Don't you feel bad They're probably suffering so much. Yeah. And they put that suffering on me to make me suffer too. I don't care about that. And then it's so funny because it's like she keeps talking about how I'm so worried about them and what they did, and I'm not worried about myself and what I need to do. But then when it comes to making excuses for people, oh, it's not about excuses for me. It's about excuses for them because, oh, they had such a hard time growing up. So did I. And it's like they just cannot help themselves but circle the drain because of the fact that in their minds, they have to side with the parent. In their minds, they have to side with the parent. They cannot they cannot side with the child, even though they were that child at a certain point in time. The second they became mothers, they no longer identify with the child of abusive parents. They only can identify with the parent, whether they're abusive or not. And she just jumped through hoops to somehow make this my fault and say I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, I've already felt sorry for them. My whole childhood was me feeling sorry for them, me being the bigger person, me understanding where they came from, me listening to their problems, me understanding their trauma and the issues that they deal with, and making myself feel like I'm personally responsible for healing them. I've already went through that phase. And a lot of times I see it as a barrier to healing for people because people who feel sorry for their abusers often feel the need to stay in their abuser's life because they don't want the abuser to be abandoned or left behind, with nobody around them because everyone else has left them and they're the one person who's staying, and they feel like they have to because, oh, how miserable they must be that everyone around them is left. Everyone around them has left because they value themselves and their healing and their well-being over the comfort of an abuser. And an abuser will always abuse if there's someone nearby to abuse. If there's no one around, then they have to look at themselves. They have to sit with themselves in that misery that they feel. But as long as someone is around, they will bear the brunt of all of their pain and anger and frustration. And it's not fair to that other person to receive all of that. But a lot of times, and these people love having kids because the kid can't leave them. A lot of times, the kids will feel like I have to forgive them and I have to stay with them and I have to allow them to abuse me because they're not going to change because they don't know any better. And then two, it'd be so sad for them if everyone in their life left them. So I have to be the one to stay, even though it's making them abuse me more. And it's hurting me to be with this person. That's why these people have kids. When someone tells me that they want to have a kid because the kid will love them unconditionally and never leave them, I tell them, you're not ready to have kids. They don't listen to me. They say I'm rude. I'm disrespectful. And they don't talk to me about their kids' dreams anymore. But it's true. Because these people are having kids for selfish reasons. And then that kid comes into their life and they treat the kid poorly because the kid does not satisfy the need that they thought the kid would satisfy, because the issue is not with the kid, the issue was with them. And the child cannot fix something that they don't even know is an issue. They have no control over whether or not their parent is happy. But they'll make the kid believe that they do, so that when they are sad, it becomes the kid's fault and not theirs. And this is something that I have such a hard time explaining to people who are parents. Such a hard time. Even if they came from toxic families themselves, even if they came from abusive parents themselves, the fact that they are parents and they look at me, all they can think about is, I would die if my child went no contact with me. Whatever I did, I tried my best and I would just want my kid to stick around. It would hurt me so much for my child to hate me or to not want to be around me because of the way that I treated them when they were young. And if I was in that situation, I would want my child to just forgive and forget and move forward. That's how those people think. And it doesn't matter how bad the situation is in front of them. All they care about is, if my child said this about me, I would not want to fix the problem. I would not want to be better. I would not even want to apologize in a lot of cases. I would want them to feel responsible for forgiving me. And I would want them to think that forgiving me and allowing me to treat them poorly is the ticket to them healing from what I did to them. Now, how does that make logical sense? It doesn't. these people run on emotion. So I'm dealing with, and I've had this happen kind of with another boomer, but they came around a lot faster and started, and when I talked to them about it, they spoke to me a bit softer. But you have boomers who feel like everybody just needs to move on and y'all stuck in the past and you're still complaining about old shit. Because I think at some point this person had also said that Black people mentally enslave themselves because they're so worried about racism, as if racism is over. um, but there's the boomer mindset. And then there's the Black mother mindset of how they view young Black women, even ones like me. It does not matter. And this thing, it does not matter that I'm nerdy. It does not matter that I wear baggy clothes as opposed to tight, revealing clothes. It does not matter that I don't do drugs. It does not matter that I don't have sex or have sugar daddies or any of the stuff that they attribute to a young Black woman. It does not matter because they still see the color of my skin and the shape of my body, and they think the same thing about me that they think about Cardi B. You know what I mean? And so that's the second part. And then the third part is a lot of these people are trying to shut us down, the young millennials, the Gen Zs, because of the fact that they have to acknowledge that they have done these things. Not all of them, but they've done some of them. They've done some abusive stuff. They've done some mean stuff. They've had some moments where they hit their child too hard. Or they treated their child in a way that made them think, ooh, but they didn't want to apologize because you can't do that when you're a parent. And they've done these things. And they don't want their kids to be mad at them about it. They want their kids to think that it is proper parenting, that it was totally appropriate, that it didn't actually hurt them as bad as they think it did. And they want them to forgive and forget, because if they do all of those things, the parent never has to apologize or acknowledge that they did anything wrong. Now, I don't just throw out words like bad parent, good parent. But there are a lot of people who have had moments where they have traumatized their kids. And because they don't want to acknowledge that they are the type of parent to traumatize their child, i.e. a bad parent, they will shut down any and everyone they come across who has some kind of issue with their parent and something they did. They don't care. They don't care if there was SA involved. They don't care if there was CSA involved. They don't care if the children still have bruises and scars 10 years later from the things that happened to them. They don't care if CPS got involved. All that matters to them is the fact that they do not want to acknowledge that they've done some bad stuff to their children in the past, whether they meant to or they didn't mean to. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to apologize, because then they would have to consider themselves a bad parent, and no parent wants to think of themselves as a bad parent. And because they can't be mentally and emotionally mature, they have to re-traumatize the rest of us by gaslighting us and silencing us and shaming us and telling us that we're being a victim and we just want to blame our parents for everything and we don't want to take any responsibility for our role. And they will mess all of us up because of their personal issue. And so as she was sitting here telling me this, because it reminded me too of another time I talked to a boomer and I gave them like tiny hints of like issues in my family, and they were like, but that's your fault, right? Some of that's your fault, right? Like they immediately expected me to say that I did something wrong when I was like, what, 5? Oh yeah, and 5-year-old me, she was a little bitch. She was just running around acting crazy. No, nigga, I was 5. You know what I mean? It's stupid. But they love to try and use that as some kind of defense. But as she was telling me these things about her family and her issues with them and how her kids were mad at her, it made me smile. And she couldn't see me. We were talking on the phone. It made me smile because now I know that everything you said these last 48 hours don't mean shit. It really doesn't. You know what I mean? Because now I know that everything you said to me, the rude things, the inappropriate things, the harsh things, the way that you refuse to see my point of view, the way that you try really, really hard to victim blame me, all came from the fact that You are not exactly like my parents, but you are a parent whose children are upset at you because of the way you treated them as children. And you just wish your kids would shut up. And because they don't, you speak to them more and more aggressively in an attempt to silence them. And so when you look at me, you see your daughters and you are trying to get me to shut up. And it's just simple as that. You're not looking at me as a separate person. You're not looking at me as another adult. You're not looking at me as someone who is equal to you. You're looking at me as one of your daughters and you want me to shut up. And there's been times where she's used the phrase, close your mouth. And I don't like being told not to talk. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when it's better to be silent and not like, word vomit or expose yourself. But it just made sense. And it just let me know that everything you said before was coming from your own insecurity and your own personal issues about your failure to create and maintain a good relationship with your own children. And that's a you problem. It's not a me problem. That has nothing to do with me. That's you. You're verbalizing the issues that you have within your own family. It's got nothing to do with me and what I struggled through at all. I just want to talk about that. It was upsetting me. And I also been like, I'm meeting more and more people who also have difficult relationships with their parents, particularly their mothers. And I'm just feeling it in my uterus because it's bringing up a lot of bad thoughts. Like I'm listening to the way that these people's moms speak to them, and I hear my mother, or I hear my father, or I hear a mix of the two. And my body don't like that. And my therapist asked me, like, how do you feel about talking to someone who is in the same place you were 5 years ago? And I was like, I never thought about how I feel about this. And then now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, my uterus is not happy because it is very emotionally invested in these people's pain. And I am having a hard time separating what's happening to them now from what happened to me 2, 3 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. I'm having a hard time separating those things. And that's why my body is acting the way it is. And it's so upset. And that's something that I have to work on with my therapist, where she talks about having empathy, but not allowing someone's emotions to overtake your entire body. If someone's having a bad day doesn't mean I have to have a bad day for the rest of the day. But that's kind of how it happens. This is why I limit the friends that I talk to. But yeah, I just want to tell you guys, I just want to go through that and process that with you guys, because it was very, very upsetting to be so vulnerable and then be invalidated. And I wanted to remind you guys that the people who you choose to share your story with, be really stingy about that. Be really stingy about that. Not everyone is entitled or deserves to hear your truth. Not everyone deserves to take a piece of your pain. Not everyone deserves, your vulnerabilities. Um, Even if it's somebody who's upsetting you and you just really want to tell them about it, make sure when you do, you're not emotionally invested in their response. Because if you're emotionally invested in their response and their response is disrespect, then it's going to wreck you. And I did not want to be emotionally invested in this woman's response, but I was overcome with the feeling of, if I don't say something, my inner child is going to think this is how people talk to us and we should allow it to happen. So I was overcome with the need to say something and say it then and there, versus waiting a minute to calm down and then coming back with some like super calculated statement. But yeah, not everybody deserves a story. Like the stuff that I talk about, I'm very like, I hold back on a lot of the specific details in my childhood for obvious reasons. But only specific people have heard specific things. There's a lot of stuff even my therapist doesn't know. And I just be randomly bringing it up and she'll be like, what? But it's like stuff like that I choose who I say it to. And I make sure that person is emotionally safe. I don't have these conversations with people I just met a week ago, a month ago. I have these conversations with people that I've known for several months, several years, and that I know that they are someone who wishes the best for me, who cares about me, who wants to breathe positivity in my life. And then I allow myself to open up. Now, I have to understand that I have to be very particular when it comes to Black mothers and when it comes to boomers, because those are a very specific demographic that do not like to hear what I have to say about my childhood and me not talking to my parents. I've learned that now. We'll put that in my pocket and I will take it with me. But yeah, I didn't need to open up to them about it. I felt the need to, but I didn't need to. I could have kept it. I could have kept it like close to my chest and just moved on and talk about something else. But I felt comfortable and I said some stuff. And I also, like, when I was telling my friend, like, another thing I told to this black woman boomer is that I didn't believe in God. And I know that she is super spiritual and religious and has been praying for me. And when I told my friend about this conversation, she was like, "Wait, you said that? You said that to her?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I did." She want to get harsh with me, and she's not remorseful at all about the fact that her words hurt me because she was rude. I'm gonna be rude back. So I'm gonna be like, God's not gonna save me from this because I don't believe in Him. So I'm gonna go the therapy route. And my friend was like, "Oh my God, Minu." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, and then the way you spoke to me was very harsh. And you're diminishing all the hard work that I've put in by really projecting onto me your relationship with your kids. And I said that to her. And sometimes you got to say it. Sometimes you got to call it out as it's happening, and let them know. Now, they ain't going to respond properly to it. They're going to be offended. They're going to be upset, but they can have whatever feelings that they want because I said what I said. Um, Quote of the two things I love to say that makes me feel so happy. I said what I said, and you can tell them I said it. Those are my favorite two things to say. I feel very empowered when I say those words, and I don't get to say them often. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to me rant about something that's very personal and vulnerable and emotional. I appreciate the support that you guys give me. I just got some good news. Like I said in Discord, I just got some good news and I would love to share with you guys once everything is like panned out. um, Not right now while it's still up in the air, but once everything's panned out and is like actively happening, I will share it with you guys sometime next month. So I'm very happy about that. But like I always say, take care of yourself because you deserve it. No one's going to do it for you. Drink your water, take your naps, eat your food. Join the Discord to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Follow me on Instagram for pictures of food and cats and motivational mental health pictures. And then also, if you want to throw me a few dollars on coffee, because I don't make no money from YouTube. I'm either always demonetized or I don't get enough views on a video. So yeah. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for all the support. I will see you in the next video. Bye.